The Australian Security Academy acknowledges the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognises the continuing connection to lands, waters and communities. We pay our respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures and to elders past and present. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people should be aware that this series of live streams contains images or names of people who have passed away. Good afternoon, investigators. Mike Evans from the Australian Security Academy with episode 324 of Spy Curious, the weekly news program for licensed private investigators, government investigators, corporate investigators throughout Australia. This program, we bring you what's been happening around the country in relation to investigations and things relevant to those that happened in the previous week. G'day, Nina. How you going, mate? Who's that? That's Amber. Hi, Amber. How you going? Jai, great to see you, mate. Really good to see you. Hope you're looking forward to meeting Casey very soon. Hi, Courtney. Great to see you. Thanks for saying hello. Yeah. The chief is on the, you won't believe this, she's on the Qd Challenge. She'll tell you all about it next week. She was here in the studio in the previous presentation where she read the acknowledgement of country, and then she had to take off to the Qd Challenge. Can't wait for that one. G'day, Matt. How you going? Great to see you, mate. Great photo. I really like that. Looks like a Gold Coast tan there. G'day, Judith. Thanks for saying hello. Hi, Michelle and Byron Bay. Lovely to see you. Thanks for saying g'day, everyone. So today we've got a whole lot of news from all around the place because it's all been happening, and I think most of you will have seen the news headlines in the papers this week. There's some really good stuff. Had some on Wayne Carey, but we'll do that next week. We've got too much to get through. So Wayne will have to wait with what he got up to earlier in the week. Earlier this week, a man appeared in Brisbane court charged with the unthinkable. It can't get any worse than what he did. He basically used a young sex worker to procure two young underage children for sex at the Sofitel Hotel in Brisbane. He was a banker from New South Wales. He'd been extradited to Brisbane. Now, when you go to these courts and you watch the rigmarole that goes on with these things, they bring the person out and the magistrate says, what are the charges? And the prosecutor reads out the charges. And usually, it's, fighting in the street, pissing in the street, abusive language to the police, just speeding for the third, all boring stuff, which is just mundane and ordinary. And every day it's the same. They don't even do shoplifting because they just give you a ticket. You don't go to court, right? It's too busy. So it's ordinary and it's mundane. Now this one, because of what this guy did, this is the defence lawyer you want. The defence lawyer came out and went straight onto the attack in the defence of his client who tried to procure two underage girls through a sex worker in Brisbane. Whoops, got to find the right one. It's coming. So basically the defence lawyer said this: Mr. Jones, who was instructed by Robinson O'Gorman solicitors, labelled the affidavits, which the police used for their evidence and included statements of a clinical psychologist and an arresting officer, as fortune-telling. This is what the defence lawyer said. So he went straight on to the attack about their evidence. Also, he pointed out, because this is the thing, who wants to go to court and watch boring? Nobody. But if it's something that's unusual and different, every police officer is going to be there in uniform watching, because they want to know what's happened, because word has got around about this guy. Then the defence lawyer says, all the police are here in this courtroom today and nobody is in the watch house guarding the other prisoners that are going to come here, because there would have been an enormous amount of uniformed police officers in that room watching. So he's gone completely on the attack about the evidence and the over saturation in the news about this, because it's such a bad thing and none of us are going to accept it. No one, nobody, right? Not even the worst of the worst is going to accept this. So anyway, the man was refused bail. He was given bail, was granted bail, and all his bank accounts were frozen. And basically, he ended his life yesterday. Apparently, this is what they reckon. We don't know yet, but he is deceased. So he was let out on bail, stayed at a friend's place on the Gold Coast, and he was found in a national park yesterday. Very high profile position in the Commonwealth Bank. Be interesting to hear what happens about it. Sad story, but I tell you what he did. Don't take drugs. Okay, it's really, really, really important. I've got job vacancies for factual investigator in both Sydney and in Melbourne. And this is for a loss adjusting firm. In Sydney, they want a loss adjuster. In Melbourne, they want a licensed PI, and you'll be onboarded and put into the loss adjusting business by them, help them grow that business down in Victoria. That's really important. G'day, Andrew. Great to see you, mate. Thanks for checking in. Hi, Todd. Thanks for saying hello. Good to see you. So moving right along, I'd like to welcome everybody from the Criminal Conduct Commission, Telecommunications Intercept team, all the covert, the communications covert and in cardigans people up at the CCC. Thanks for watching, so you know what's going on at the CCC today. Great to have you on board, people. Really good. I'm going to get to, very soon, I'm going to get to our presentation on surveillance operatives and competing, not on price. That's coming, but I've just got to cover the usual things first. In New South Wales, the Watchdog, ICAC, this week came out and exposed a staggering $343 million of fraud and corruption in the Transport Department of New South Wales, conducted by one public servant, taking kickbacks and bribes to funnel all the work to one organisation in New South Wales, a massive amount of money. So the person was paid kickbacks, and the police or ICAC, whoever, confiscated a whole lot of stuff. And if you want to know who it is, you can replay this later and zone in on the photographs and see who it is. But anyway, he skipped the country. He's gone while he was on bail. He had 340 million good reasons to do so. But ICAC have prosecuted it. Now, they don't do this at the CCC in Queensland. They just say, oh, no, that's not our jurisdiction. We can't do that. No, that's too hard. We don't do that. No, we don't do that. No, we don't do that. You've got to go to the council for that, go to the police for that. That's what watchdogs basically do, IBAC and the CCC. But it's great to see, and it really is refreshing to see ICAC, the really good watchdog in New South Wales, who actually do watchdog work, and they bust fraud and corruption in the public service, unlike the CCC, which encourages it and participates in it. ICAC in Western Australia don't. They are really good. They're really good watchdog. But ICAC here, commendable work down in New South Wales. Really pleased to see that. Hey, Kevin, great to see you. Thanks for saying hello, mate. I'm very well. Okay. One of the things that happens frequently is I interact with businesses and people who are holding themselves back because they think we're in the investigation industry. It's not good form to promote ourselves. It's not good form to be really proud of our achievements, and they don't market themselves as well as they should or could. They're a little bit reticent about it because they think, well, you know, we're not the hospitality industry and we're not the furniture industry or the fast food industry or something like that. So no one should be excited about what they do, and we should always be totally low key about marketing ourselves. Well, yeah, look, maybe 30 years ago in investigations, that would have been the norm. 30 years ago, if you went to court and you swore at a police officer, the prosecutor would say, okay, and then Mr. Evans swore at the arresting police officer. And the magistrate would say, well, what did he say? And they would pass the police officer's notes of Mr. Evans's 3 pages worth of swearing at the police officer, right? And the magistrate would look at it and go, he said what? That's disgusting. 6 months. That's what they'd do. It was outrage to be swearing. It was outrageous to be rude. Society's got a little bit more used to that now because I swear a lot, okay? And attitudes towards that sort of thing have changed. Now, in court today, stodgy old Westminster system court in Australia, based on the British system, it's used in Canada, right? They'll read out the words exactly what Mr. Evans said, exactly verbatim. And then the magistrate, she will repeat them. Oh, Mr. Evans, I don't think you really should have, you escalated this a little bit too much. We can't have this kind of behaviour, so I'm going to fine you $30. Don't do it again. Basically what will happen, because society's attitudes change. So no one thinks you have to be embarrassed about being a private investigator. I went to high school with a guy who wore glasses. Now, he wasn't bullied for wearing glasses and nobody teased him about that, but he'd have to go every year to have his eyes tested and his glasses adjusted. And he would go with his mum into this little CBD back alley, go up the back stairs and go round in the back room to the optometrist, and he would wear glasses like mine, you know, Buddy Holly ones from 1952, right? And that's what he had to do because they were his only choices. He thought, this is not good enough. So he went to university, he became an accountant, he graduated. He started up Australia's first chain of spectacle glasses eyewear in shopping centres. It was an outrageous thought at the time that someone should go and make glasses for nerds available to the population. It was a ridiculous concept. Worked very well and made him a very, very wealthy person by identifying how it could be done better. And you're allowed to do that. And society benefits from that. And you should be proud of the fact that you have the potential to realise that, even though you're so angry, you didn't think of that idea and become rich, and you could have, right? Don't think like that. Think about how you can change your thinking to match it with clients' needs. And I'm going to go through it, right? As an investigator today, and we're going to use, because the question we got asked in relation to this was about surveillance investigators and their income. And a very astute, very articulate, very good at communicating a concept and an idea, licensed surveillance professional made that proposal in a Facebook social media of mine. And he basically said, we propose the establishment of a minimum industry standard rate for additional remuneration in the Facebook group Private Investigator Australia, which 80% of people don't know I own. So he put that in there. Now, here's the thing. You want to communicate a concept in Australia to other investigators, you go on social media to a public group. People trying to dominate the industry with their opinions and their emotions and their feelings, get on my social media and let fly. And I delete. No, it's not going. No one ever sees it, you know, and rants and raves and abuse at me. They get on there and they do that. Why do they do it? Well, let's have a look at this one alone. The one you're watching now is a YouTube channel. This YouTube channel, right, is the engine room of Australian Professional Support Services weekly news. It's had 629,092 real content views. It's got 1,300 investigation-related videos. It has an enormous 1,525 investigation subscribers. Now, the views and the subscribers are not paid people in Mexican prisons or Indonesian prisons where they fake view this and fake subscribe to it for 2 cents per 100 views or something like that. This is real. It has 324 episodes of Spy Curious, weekly news about what went on in Australia in the news this week, what happened in the courts, whatever. We have exposed fearlessly corruption in Victoria WorkSafe and the Queensland Criminal Conduct Commission. You can't do that as a PI because you'll lose your contract with Victorian WorkSafe and the CCC. You can't say a word. I can, because I know they were corrupt. I know they acted corruptly, right? And I can say it and I can expose it. And when I do, it just quietly adjusts. A couple of years ago, we had one of our members write to me and say, we've got to fix the fact that on surveillance, we have to show our licence worn on our chest as per the legislation in New South Wales. Now, I wrote, because of that, because of what you're watching now, to the Police Commissioner in New South Wales once, didn't get a reply, wrote again, dear Commissioner, I know you're busy with terrorism and domestic violence and some issues around, misbehaving people occasionally and whatever. I know you're really busy, but can you have a look at this for us? Now, I never got a reply, but they changed the legislation. So we were able, because someone identified an issue, to change it. Now, there wasn't a song and dance and a brass band and, headlines about private investigators get their own way with the New South Wales Police Commissioner. Nothing like, we don't want that, right? But we got what we wanted. Now, similarly, on this program that you're watching now, on our YouTube channel, we've had over 1,000 investigator employment vacancy opportunities to take advantage of. Now, that's pretty enormous, all of that, when you look at it together. So when people want to influence other people, they try and post on my social media because they know I've got all that, right? They probably know more about it than I do because they do their research, whatever. But if you look at it, what is 17,500 hours of watch time? It's 729 continuous 24-hour days. There's someone watching this channel for this industry. So this industry has people who want to absorb content, want to know what's going on, and if they can change something for good, they've got a platform to do it on. Pretty good. 6 years ago, we didn't have that. I didn't have time, right? But, semi-retired, I've got all day. I can produce 2 of these a day if I wanted to. Right now, okay? So I'm going to take you through how you can set up that professional standard that you want, to pursue the professional rate that you want, how others have done it. And it gets a little bit historical, but I've got to take you through that because of attacks on me on social media this week, right? Which I'm really sensitive about. Okay. So this is how it all started. In 2003, we've got to look at the history. Investigations in Melbourne were split between two investigation agencies who basically controlled factual investigation and surveillance investigations in that state and that city at that time. They were MPOL and LKA. You either worked or were associated with one or the other, but never the twain did they cross for competitive reasons. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just how it worked. Nationally recognised qualifications came in at that same time. Prior to that, it was pretty well voluntary, but in 2003, it became mandatory. Over 150 licensed investigators met with me personally, either through MPOL or LKA in Melbourne in 2003. Every single one of them was interviewed regarding recognition of prior learning for a case to meet their licensing regulation requirements of that time, steered by the licensing regulation divisions, David Detman and Belinda Murphy of the Victorian Police. And they checked every single one of them. So the cops know I interviewed them. This is a regulator. They know. They checked. They interviewed some of them. A couple of them were interviewed on Sunday afternoon. It was pretty serious, the checking process. Yep, they got that exemption now because of what you're watching. That's right, spot on. So they met with me, those investigators, and there's no argument about it. They told me what they did, and I matched that to the requirements of the nationally recognised qualification. We fast forward 5 years later to 2008, and the whole process was repeated again. It changed now to the CPP 30607 qualification, and the Licensing Regulation Division, in their wisdom, said, go out, get interviewed live, face-to-face, meet the requirements, or go and study it, or lose your licence. So again, these people came and met with me. By this stage, it wasn't just LKA and MPOL anymore. So others were starting to come into this, develop businesses, and there was much more to come later. Everything evolves. It doesn't stay the same. As much as you want to hang on to the past, it moves forward, it grows. So I had another round of meetings, this time with over 200 investigators. A new cohort in amongst those, and a second meeting with the same 10 investigators at their office this time. So I interviewed these 10 investigators previously. I've just re-interviewed them again now. Now, the disruptors in the Victorian market at this stage were New South Wales Investigation Agency started to secure local tenders, and Queensland as well. So Verifact moved in to Melbourne and Victoria. I know this is boring, but you've got to get where I'm coming from, because it leaves me wide open if I don't explain it to people with misinformation about what I did, right? And shouting loudly on social media, going, I'm an expert on what everybody did, and I know they're not. Okay. So Allied Universal, Procare, M&A investigations all started to get some of the action in Victoria from New South Wales. Now, of course, some of the Victorian ones were starting to get some of the action in New South Wales as well. So it went up as well as down. And then the competitive success and transition from emerging to established investigation agencies within Victoria, such as Pinkerton's, Massell, sure fact, and proof integrity. Just some examples, all right? Okay. They were starting to hit now. So I'm interviewing all these people, but 10 of them that I've just interviewed, I interviewed before. And some of the ones I'd interviewed before had opted out, some had retired, some were the same. But I've met with them a second time and I'm learning what they do because they have to meet the requirements of the qualification. The 10 committed surveillance operatives had a new paradigm shift in investigations outside the box in Melbourne, Victoria. They designed it. Their surveillance operatives were non-aligned with any other investigation agency. They were doing a setup by themselves just for surveillance. They were supporting each other with a shared vision, charging by the case and not by the hour. You go back to 2008, you'd probably be getting $30 an hour for a factual investigation, maybe $23 an hour for surveillance, for WorkSafe or TAC. Get a little bit more than that now. They were not doing slave labour rates of surveillance investigation for government departments like other people were. They got outside of it. They focused on corporate and government work when it was required. They had no website, no social media with any social media group or association with a group, and they had no police experience. Back in 2008, they had established and prepared for today's city of 7 million people in Melbourne. That's not bad thinking. They prepared for the future with the way they wanted to do it. Their modus operandi is total distrust of anyone else and identifying low volume new talent in clients, all right? That's what they want to do. So they don't pull in other investigators to do ordinary or not sufficient work or go and arrive at a surveillance job, sit there for 2 minutes and then drive around to the drive-through coffee shop and get a coffee. They don't touch those people. They don't get in the Facebook groups they're in. Right? They do not go anywhere near that. They have their own people who they know will be there at 4:30 a.m. And these people, they've got older children today. Right? They probably had high school children back then or primary school children back then, but they would have stayed even a little bit later rather than knocked off at 2 o'clock to get a result. So yeah, they might have pushed it, but their reputation for getting the result was building because they weren't encumbered by do 35 hours of surveillance over 4 days. And if you don't see anyone in the first 10 minutes, call the operation off. They didn't have any of that, which is good. To successfully achieve the proposed aims of the articulate, intelligent investigator that made this proposal, you don't have to do what these other 10 people did. You don't even have to go anywhere near what they did. You can develop your own way of doing it, and you can leverage your own strengths and trusted connections. It's still possible to do today. You haven't missed the bus. Corporations are screaming for it, and it's possible to achieve. You commit to the long term, but have full attention on the one factor that will determine your success, and it's not price. Forget about frickin' price. I don't want to hear about low-cost surveillance. Compete on value and not price. A bargain hunter client has no value in professional support services. Don't even engage with them. Let it go. If they ask you to do surveillance for 40 hours for $7 an hour, say, oh, thanks, really appreciate that, I'm busy. You've got to know what the client's priority is today. Today, there is only one priority. No one contemplates for 8 months that they need to do something about stock shrinkage in the warehouse or missing valuable materials from the construction site for 8 months. They don't. Absolutely do not do that. Okay, it doesn't come down to this. Today, we expect an instant response, and so do your clients. If they're asking for $5 an hour to do surveillance, no, I'm not available, you go somewhere else. Let someone else to do it. Instant service beats low price in 2025. The ability to respond and start tomorrow is the key. Hubby's sudden weekend golf trip opportunity can't wait until Monday. It's got to be started Friday night and finished Sunday night. Every identified pattern of missing construction materials every Tuesday night can't wait until Friday morning for it to be responded to. The delivery driver with the most stock or complaints missing by customers has to be observed on his schedule run, not when you're singularly available to do it. 24/7 around the clock, availability is your key, not price. You want a plumber, you don't want him next week. And I'll tell you what, it's probably going to take you today 10 calls to get one that you can get, and it's going to be more expensive. So you pay it and you get your toilet fixed. 5 years from now, in just a mere 5 years from now, forget 2008 and 2005 years from now, if someone wants a surveillance investigator, press a button on your computer, and in 30 minutes' time, you will be the responding person. Equally, if someone wants an electrician, that's how it's going to be. If someone wants the house valued, that's how it's going to be. If someone wants a new car to test drive, that is how it's going to be. Instantaneous results rather than sales, cool, smooth salesmanship, which we've relied on for 300 years, is now the key to the future. And you can do it. A group can respond as an individual cannot. This is the problem for every self-employed carpenter, sparky, chippy, plumber. Every lady and man in those occupations has only a certain amount that they can handle in any week. Unless they get smart, coordinate as a group, come together with trusted other people who you already have and they haven't got them. You've spent years developing a team that you trust. They're behind the eight ball here. You're ahead of the game in surveillance. You've got to become the instantly available optical surveillance professional support solution. That is what you got to do. Okay, Emily, sorry to hear you got held up. That's okay. Every operation you go on should have a written agreement. That was the question. Do they operate with written agreements? Yes. Okay. Even though it's instant, it's going to be a written agreement. Now, you saw this in Victoria. I'm using Victoria as an example. Okay. Doesn't matter. This could be Queensland or Tasmania. It applies wherever you live. Right. You saw in Victoria this year where the police came out and said, under the County Court Amendment Act, you are now going to do a complete security risk assessment of the factual investigation where you're going to go and take statements at people's homes, or the surveillance operation where you're going to go to Kyneton and do a surveillance operation before you go. And you are. And it's got to be put in and submitted to the client before you go and do it. That's the expectation of instant response by the regulator. So to meet and be an equal to the regulatory demands, that some people just could not meet this. It's not going to be possible for them because they're new and confused. They weren't trained properly. They don't have the connections. They have to compete on price. They're going to be a 5-minute wonder, and they're always going to wonder why they couldn't make it, because they didn't have the connections. So your advantage is the connections you've already got. Now, I know you already know this, but put it together with the original question. We want to strike a rate that's comparable to our experience and qualifications, our reports, and our professionalism. We've got to get this happening to get that. You can't do it as, okay, everybody go and do it, that's fine. No. You're doing it with a coordinated group in the Sunshine Coast, in Parramatta, on the Gold Coast, in Fremantle, doesn't matter where it is, right? You get together yourself a group of like-minded people who you trust and you can work with, and you can do those responses. You're going to start stitching up the work in that area. So you organise your peers with the experience. You don't have to be like the ones in Melbourne. You don't have to be, you can only do 3. Will do in the beginning. Yes, it will grow to 15 later. But let's get 2 or 3 first in your group, in your area. And you might, with your connections on your phone, have 15 people, 3 on the Sunshine Coast, 3 on the Gold Coast, 3 in Brisbane, 4 at Tweed Heads, who you could start getting this concept for. You don't have to have this big contract with each other or that sort of thing. That'll come later because we're going to make that professional. Get the concept running through people. If we're going to demand the professional rate, we're going to have professional systems in place. Get the thinking right first, then we can do it. Agree on a plan to manage manage and implement the concept with each other. Now, all day on surveillance, you talk crap to each other to fill in the time. Okay. Right. And you brag about your footy team winning and you say what you're going to be doing on the weekend and whatever's going on. Right. Why not commit to 2 minutes about how we can start to build this? Don't take on any cheap or discounted work anymore. Just forget that. That ties you up and commits you to 40 hours at $7 for the next 2 weeks. And you can't do work at the proper rate. You can't do the professional standard rate work when you're doing the low price work. So wipe it out. When you start saying no, your 3 associates here start saying no, and the 4 associates over there start saying no, the bargain hunters collapse because the pool isn't that great. Now, they can go and use unlicensed surveillance operatives and take that risk. That's their problem, not yours. You don't have to fix the issue that they created themselves by marketing cheap marital and relationship surveillance. You don't. What's my role in this? I liked what this proposal was for so much. I really liked it. Every week here on this platform, I will promote the concept here if you start to implement it. Why am I going to promote the concept here if you start to implement it? Because I got 629,000 content views, 1,320 videos, 1,525 subscribers, 17,500 hours of watch time, blah, 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 which adds up to this many days of watch time. This is the platform to tell the world and market your successful potential to corporate, government, and even insurance companies. It's disrupting it, just like 2008 was disrupted in Melbourne on a micro scale. Now, you can do that on a micro scale anywhere. Perth, Brisbane, Adelaide, Darwin. It doesn't matter. You can. Oops. Sorry. You must be visible where users are, not in private investigator groups. Forget about private investigator groups. You're only talking to other private investigators. If I go and stand in the front of my football team's cheer squad and I start telling them, look, yeah, we're the best squad in the last 6 years. We've won 3 premierships and, we're the best team in the competition. They already know that. That's useless, right? I've got to go over and say it to the people sitting on the fence in the middle of the ground that are sort of wavering about where their loyalties lie. So you've got to do promoting yourself to send the message to the clients that are going to pay more for your services. Outrageous, I know, totally outrageous and unthinkable. But you've got to educate them as to why that exists and is supported by me here. It takes time and traction will build over time. When I first started my YouTube channel and got 3 views, I thought, well, this is useless, I'll give up. So I did. 6 months later, I went and had a look at it and I had 30,000 views and I hadn't even put anything on it. Intoxicated people had accidentally clicked on my website. I don't think so. Or they were looking for what I was doing. And I didn't even know they were looking for it. And in hindsight, I now know that every day 400 people go onto that YouTube channel and look at it. And they're interested in what we do. Now, you'll see people poo-poo this and rah-rah that. And keep in mind, if you go and have a look at their YouTube channel, they'll have 500 million views, which is a lot better than my crappy 600,000 targeted industry views. Mine are real. They're not paid for by people in prisons in South America, Mexico, or Indonesia. They're real views. So it works, okay? That's really important. Do investigation agencies promote themselves? Look, here's Clarity Workplace Solutions. We have the best people and systems to give you the best experience. How dare Clarity Workplace Solutions say that? Well, they can because they've employed 60 Australian security licensed investigation graduates in the last 18 months. This week, 3 people, who haven't even graduated yet, are talking to them about the future there. So they're thinking ahead. They're not thinking, let's wait around until they get licensed. They're not thinking, let's hold back and be embarrassed, okay? They're thinking, how do we get ahead and stay ahead? And they flog it. And you can get on their website and we're trusted and we're driven. Good on them. I've offered you the platform here to do that without you having to have a Facebook page. And you can do it on here and I'll promote it every week. If you do it through the person that posted that intelligent post on my social media that said we propose the establishment of minimum industry standard rate with additional remuneration. The method of this is nothing new. It's called front loading. By being available on demand and responsive, you get first go at a client. You fit the expectations of clients in 2025 moving forward. This is how Uber started. Your pizzas are delivered under this system on a Friday night, so's your alcohol. When you can't go and drive, all right, you can get it delivered to home. It's on-demand service, on-demand satisfaction, 225 forward. When you order something on eBay or Temu or wherever you go, you are really pissed off if it's not there the next day now, aren't you? It's the same with the service that you've got, which is highly valuable and wanted by organisations. Yes, you will piss people off by doing it. You'll threaten them. Stone Age obstructionists want clients to wait for them to be available in 6 months' time when they get round to it. That's useless. Clients don't want that. They're looking for you, the responsive one. And they don't necessarily want the cheapest, cheap and dirty, woeful service. They want the professional service that was proposed in that minimum standard rate with additional remuneration in that Facebook group this week. Something to think about, isn't it? So the ball is now entirely in your court. Get your people together. It doesn't have to be 10. It doesn't even have to be in Melbourne or Brisbane or Sydney. You could do it in Hobart, Kalgoorlie. You could, because you could operate for 3,000 kilometres around Kalgoorlie, right? So the opportunity is there. I'm providing this platform for it. I'll throw my full weight and resources behind it. You don't even have to create a social media page. Don't do it. You don't have to have a website. Don't do it. Let's move it forward and do it together. Big opportunity here in Spy Curious episode 324. You've just been offered it, okay? Casey isn't here today, so I haven't got an open source intelligence presentation. So nothing about sock puppets this week. So nothing about any of that, but we'll be back with that next week. If you are looking for a job, people, these people, AB Investigations in New South Wales, are looking for investigators, Australian Security Academy graduates. You get in touch with them. Casey's OSINT program, Brisbane, still has availability. We're sold out everywhere else. Totally sold out everywhere else. A senior investigations officer wanted the Department of Health in Queensland. And all those jobs and more are available over on our Facebook page. Very hard, very extremely hard to break in, okay? That's where you got to work to win the confidence of the connected people that I'm talking to who've proposed this and will eventually, right, require you in the future and onboard you into their system. Oh, no, Matty, thanks very much. I really appreciate it. I don't know what you've got to do with it, mate, but that's amazing. I'm really pleased you're pleased with it. I thought whoever the guy was, it's a very bold thing to stand up and say that. And Matty, for you to come out and support it, that gives it incredible weight. So whoever took this risk is an industry leader who needs our support. Thanks for watching, people. I'm Mike Evans from the Australian Security Academy. I'm going out in the usual way. My mission this week is complete. Back with Casey next week. Have a great investigation.
작전 종료. 전원 복귀할 것.